What's up guys, my name is Jacob aka Milk. This gameplay you're watching is with a player named Christopher. He's the guy that knocked me out of the last Fireside Gathering. Definitely an insanely good player, but these games aren't what I want to talk about right now. Since the announcement of TGT, there's been a lot of theory crafting regarding the Inspire mechanic and whether or not it's going to be viable in the current meta. For those of you who don't play ladder or maybe don't play the higher levels on ladder, ranked play is pretty much all about tempo. Tempo is establishing a board presence for yourself while denying one for your opponent. This is why Hunter and Zoo have always been powerful decks on ladder. They're great at fighting for board control and applying lots of pressure. So when you introduce a mechanic like Inspire, you first and foremost need to evaluate how it's going to stack up against the current tempo decks. And to be blunt, I'm pretty worried that they won't be able to compete against the current set. Every time that Blizzard releases more cards, the overall strength of Hearthstone constructed decks increase. Constructed gets stronger because new cards offer more efficient ways to accomplish what the deck builder wants. So it turns out that virtually every slot in a constructed deck is incredibly well contested. Anytime you cut a card, the card that replaces it has to be more efficient than the previous one. People are naturally going to gravitate towards what works best, which in the past has meant that every time new cards are introduced, the meta has gotten more aggressive. The concern I have with Inspire is that it's an inherently slow mechanic. Inspire is very powerful once it gets going, but it takes several turns to develop. Let's look at a few of the Inspire cards released so far and see if any of them are powerful enough to be played in an aggressive meta. Lowly Squire, 1-2 for 1 mana, that's a weak turn 1 play, and if you play it as a 2-2 plus your hero power, it's a really weak turn 3 play. I think when you compare this card to Mana Worm in terms of its individual strength, the card is just completely outclassed. Silverhand Regent, for 3 mana, you get a 3-3. Which is outvalued by every other 3-drop in the game. And this problem is even worse when you play it on turn 5 with your hero power. For 5 mana, you expect a certain level of power output in order to be played at the higher levels. For 5 mana, you can play a Sludge Belcher, you can play Loatheb, you can play an Azure Drake. All of these have a lot more profound effects than the Regent. And I could list off every card, but the bottom line here is none of these new cards are individually powerful enough to be seen and constructed. Obviously, the dream when playing an Inspire deck is to activate multiple abilities with one hero power. So to some degree, it's unfair to say that any underwhelming effect is weak, because in the best case scenario, you're activating multiple effects with each hero power. That, however, presents an issue in itself. Inspire cards are, by design, less strong than non-Inspire cards. The reason for that is because you can get multiple activations off of one card, but in order for that to happen, your Inspire minions need to stick for at least one turn, and hopefully more than that. So if you're fighting for the board with weaker minions than your opponent, it stands to reason that you're often going to lose board control, which in constructed Hearthstone means you're often going to lose the game. Furthermore, if you're in a position where you can activate several Inspire effects with one hero power, you're most likely already in a winning position, and at that point, the push from Inspire is unlikely to affect the outcome of the game in a meaningful way. So to wrap this up, what can Blizzard do to make the Inspire mechanic worth using? I think the obvious answer is to make Inspire cards that are worth activating on the same turn that they're played. Obviously, this is hard to design because it makes if they make the cards too strong, then they're going to snowball out of control. But if they make them too weak, then the aggressive decks are just going to run them over. I think an interesting route to take might be to make more of the Inspire cards have anti-aggro abilities. It's worth remembering that every time Blizzard's released new cards in the past, the meta's gotten faster, and I think that's part of their motivation for this push on hero powers. They want to drive the metagame away from its focus on tempo and more towards control, or at the very least slow the format down a bit. My hope is that the new direction they're taking the game is one that can at least be competitive against these tempo-based decks, I know Blizzard is aware of these concerns, so I'm interested to see how they respond with the new cards. Thanks for watching, everyone. That's all I have to say for now. I'll let the gameplay run out, but until next time, thanks for watching and have a great day.